Okay, so this is pretty cool. This is easily one of the most, I guess, interesting properties we've had in quite some time. This is in Camden County, up at the Lake of the Ozarks, and this property sits directly across um, Lookout Drive from the lake. You've got multiple lake views because of the topography that the property sits up, for the most part, sits up quite a ways above the road. So I mean, you've got stunning lake views. Even just standing on the ground, you've got really nice lake views. If and when you decide to build, I mean, you're going to have sweeping lake views. So let's hop in and take a look at this. Here's the property here. This road you see is Lookout Drive, which comes down and runs by the lake here. Okay, try to get this situated. So the property has about 800 feet of frontage on Lookout on its northeast side. It then cuts in here. These are several building lots. There's some houses and cabins here that obviously aren't on the property. And then it goes back and fronts Lookout Drive along the whole south side. And then the west line is a straight shot, basically along the section line. So this is a Google map it's probably a year or two old, I would guess. This property was logged 2 or 3 years ago, and you can actually see that in this Google map. You can see kind of some groves of trees and then some open areas that have some grass and brush that have grown back. Um, so it was logged. It wasn't clear cut. They cut the commercial white oaks and probably the red oaks out of there. They left quite a bit of timber. They really didn't do any cleanup, but it's already had a couple years, 2 3 years worth of growth. So it's had a really good start on cleaning itself up, basically. So it'd be a matter of coming in, deciding where you want to build, improve the trail system, clear a building site, and let's go to the topo map because that tells the story pretty well here. It's typical Ozark property. There's a lot of up and a lot of down to it. I mean, if you look at any topo maps of the Ozarks, they all look about like this. There's a lot of variation, a lot of, I guess, hills and hollers, as they say. Um, so the property, let's look toward about the middle or the south half. We have this large level area here, which basically comprises two ridges, one that drops to the northeast, and one that drops kind of to the southeast. And then you do have this large level area here. You've got a valley toward the north part, kind of a long, wide valley, and then it rises up on the north side. So when you're driving to this property, you'll likely take, I believe this is Stoddard Lane. You'll take a right onto Lookout, and the road will start to drop, and then you'll see the property on the right. And the road drops fairly steeply. The county road does. It comes down to the bottom. It starts to level out, and then it levels out about here at the curve. You then keep going south. This is the part that's not included. Several houses and cabins. Those are your neighbors, I guess. And then as you get a little further, you're back to the road frontage. Um, Potentially here at the turn, there's a place where if you had someone come in with a piece of machinery, that could actually, if you're willing to spend a couple $1,000 on a driveway, um, that would be, yeah, maybe one of my preferences because it could take you right up to this, um, what is likely the best building site on the property. And then as you continue to the west, it gets pretty steep up here. So I mean, it's got enough road frontage where you could, I mean, you have a lot of options as far as putting in a good driveway. The only real trail that we saw into the property actually started here up on the northern side and kind of went diagonally down this steep area into the valley. Um, so, so I mean that's usable, but it's going to be steep. I'm sure it will need to be cleaned up because it hasn't been maintained in years. Um, but if we were headed out here to do a driveway, a quick and easy driveway, we would likely do it probably about here, where it's fairly level. I mean, you'll have to cut a few trees and move a little dirt, but I think that could be done with a small tractor, um, possibly by hand, depending on if you kind of know what you're doing. And then you could drive right into the property and hook up with the trail system. Uh, if you actually look on the listing, because we got this property, like I said, a couple years ago, it looks like it was out on lease. This is a really great area for recreation with the lake right there. There are deer and turkey all over the place. So, but we've got it back in our inventory. We've decided to put it on the market. But this kind of shows you can't really see the trail system. But what I was about to say was if you look at the actual listing, we have some um, wintertime aerial photos. I don't even remember where we got them, probably from the county GIS site a couple of years ago. And they show it right after the logging. And you can see that the different trails and whatnot that go through it. And that might help you to plan out kind of your plan of attack if you're going to do a camping site or a building site or whatnot out here. So um, I think we have it priced really, really well. Um, the price point where we have it is comparable to what we've seen for small acreage with Lakeview. And this does have road access. This does have power, phone, and cable. I'm sure there'll be cell service here. I don't think there is city water and sewer, so it'd be a well and septic situation, but that's no big deal here because it's a big property. So I think we have this 11 acres priced similar to what we've seen for um, Lakeview tracts as small as 1 or 2 acres. So yeah, it does need some cleanup, but holy cow, you could have something amazing when you're done. Um, we we do put restrictions on most of our properties. We have not put restrictions on this because this area of Camden County does have zoning, which is actually fairly similar to our basic restrictions as far as they'll have a minimum square footage size when you build, which I believe is 640 feet, something along those lines. It's just standard residential stuff. I mean, if you're going to go in, um, you basically have to use a foundation, blah blah blah. Talk to Camden County for any and all specifics. They're pretty good up there. So let's. One other quick thing I wanted to show you was see this outline comes from MapRight, and MapRight links to the county GIS, which is their global information system, and shows um, what they believe to be the boundaries of the property, or what their computer system shows as the boundaries of the property. And so MapRight has outlined the county GIS. This property, the west line, is actually the section line, and that's this thick red line on the topo map. So you can see that for whatever reason, this is just a little bit off, um, and the topo map may not be 100% accurate, but if you switch to the aerial, the Google aerial, and you kind of zoom in a little bit, if you look right here, you can see the cut line where the logger stopped. And this is showing that cut line is right where that section line shows on the topo map. So it's pretty safe to say that that's the property boundary. MapRight and the GIS are usually really, really, really accurate. In this case, it looks like they're about 40, almost 50 feet off. So if you go out there and you'll probably find some kind of old fence, you'll obviously see where the logger stopped. That's going to be the west line of the property. And then the east line, of course, is Lookout Drive over here. Lookout Drive over here. I think we can turn on the parcel maps. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. So this is the parcel map layer on MapRight. So there are 3 lots that are not included. That kind of shows those. But I mean, if you get the full version of MapRight, I think you can do these different layers. If you're interested, you really don't need to. Okay. But anyway, this is already going much longer than I expected it to. I want to quickly show the directions on how to get here. And by the way, this section of Lake of the Ozarks, it's awesome. I mean, we've personally spent a lot of time up here. If you look to the north, this is Golden Goose Cove. It has an amazingly good public access point maintained, I believe, by the Conservation Department right here with a boat launch, a fishing pier, bathrooms. It's all free. And that is just right up the road from the property, just maybe a mile and a half from the property. But anyway, Lake of the Ozarks in and of itself is extremely popular. This is more toward the west end of the lake, which is sort of the family-friendly side for families and fishermen. So you don't have the huge power boats cruising through it at 50 miles an hour, or 50 knots, as they say, which you would have down towards Camdenton. This is a little quieter section. Like I said, we've personally spent quite a bit of time here. This deal right here, I think it's called Kaufman Bend, but every year we take our vacation right up here at a place called Millie's Getaway. So we're really familiar with the area. We're really familiar with that section of the lake. It's fantastic. I mean, you can fish, you can tube. Um, just great for kids and families. Okay, back to the business at hand. So here's Climax Springs, the little town of Climax Springs. It just depends on which way you're coming from, but it's pretty similar either way. So let's back out one more time. Okay, if you're coming from the west, let's look up here in the upper left, then you're likely coming from Warsaw. So you take Highway 65 south, take Highway 7 to the east. Just before you get to Climax Springs, you'll go north on, I believe it's Highway DD. And then we'll continue from there in a second. If you're coming from the east, you're likely coming from the Camdenton area. So you'll take Highway 5 across the lake. You'll go west on Highway 7. You'll go a little past Camdenton, and you'll go north on Highway DD. And if you print out the maps and whatnot from the listing, it'll be much easier. Or we can email you the link to this interactive map. Okay, so you've just gone north on DD. You're going to go a couple miles, maybe 3-4 miles, I don't remember exactly, 2 or 3 miles. And then you're going to go right onto FF. So you're hopping on FF, you go a couple miles there, and you'll go right onto Pine Cove Drive. Okay, so we've just taken a right. This is Pine Cove Drive. Follow that around, or Pine Cove Road possibly. Follow that around, follow that around. You'll get, there's a good landmark here. There's a fire station right here on the north side of Pine Cove Drive, or Pine Cove Road. This is the fire station, and that's where you'll go left. You'll go north onto Stoddard Lane, and that's a gravel road. So you'll take Stoddard, you'll veer to the right, and then pretty soon you'll see Lookout Drive on the right, and this is Lookout Drive right here. So take a right, go a couple hundred feet, and you'll see the property. There we have it. Really interesting tract. I mean, this stuff at the lake we think is one of the best investments you can make. If you've looked at stuff on any lake, this isn't on the lake, it's directly across from the lake, but it is Lakeview. If you've looked at Lakeview acreage, it's very, very hard to find. Seldom do you find tracts this large. They've generally been subdivided already into multiple smaller tracts. We just happen to get a really good deal on a lot of acreage up here, and we're not going to mess with splitting this up, so we're selling the whole 11 acres. So InstantAcres.com is where you can go to check that out. If you have any questions, you can reach us by email at sales@InstantAcres.com. But if the property is still available, then you'll find it on our website at InstantAcres.com.